I've got a novel coming out in September, I think it is, from Harper Collins, Angry Robot to Harper Collins imprint. It's called Pretty Little Dead Things, and it's a supernatural crime novel where the supernatural is, you know, it's not in the background, it's full on. So it's equally crime as it is supernatural. And this is basically chapter 2. The first chapter is flashback, and this is where the story begins. I'll just give you a little brief bit of information. It's about a character called Thomas Usher, who he lost his wife and daughter in a car accident, and after the car accident he found that he could see ghosts. Basically, he can't speak to them, can't speak to him, but he sees them that come to him to be, as his name implies, to be ushered on to wherever they need to go next. And so basically, he's, as we meet him in this novel, he's trying to turn his back on his talent. He feels as if dark forces are actually being drawn towards him rather than him being any help. So he's been trying to eke out a living doing whatever he can, which, you know, trying to be a private investigator, you know, keeping an eye on people for people and just taking on money where he can and trying to ignore ghosts. But as we all know, you can't ignore ghosts. So here we go, Pretty Little Dead Things. It was raining again. Why does it always rain in situations like this? You're stuck out in the street that you aren't too familiar with, on a dark night in a rowdy part of town. It's like some kind of immutable law, perhaps akin to the strange household hoodoo that ensures you lose one sock from every pair you put on the washing machine. Or whenever you put something down, it's no longer there in the same place when you go back to pick it back up. Some call it Sod's Law, I just call it life. A great blanket of sky hung over the maze of flat grey streets. The horizon line nothing more than a vague, slightly grey demarcation located somewhere beyond the edge of the city. The clouds and sky were indistinguishable. A vast metal grey sheet hung above me, waiting to drop on my unsuspecting head. Leeds is a pretty hostile city at the best of times, but on the night in question, I felt that hostility rushing at me in waves, pulsing through the heavy air and into my mind like a small mental battering ram. The pubs had chucked out some time ago, but the late bars and nightclubs are still jumping. Bass-heavy music spilled out into the slick streets, mixing with the vomit and kebab meat that lay unappealing fleshy patches on the glistening footpaths. Raised voices combined to create a rumbling undercurrent of chatter, but no actual words were audible from the shuddering cacophony. Cars passed by at a slow pace, their drivers and passengers watching the roadside carnival from behind a protective layer of glass. Most northern cities after nightfall are like zoos. By that late hour, the animals had already been let out of their cages and allowed to roam free for a while. Giggling young women in short skirts and high heels stumbled off curbs. Sweaty men in thin cotton shirts sank to their knees and prayed to some drunken deity. Large figures in dark suits watched from neon doorways. Uneasy sentinels trained to spot the flame of violence before it even flared beyond a tiny spark. The girl I was waiting for was standing in the doorway of a pub opposite the Metropole Hotel. She was just 21, wearing a fake fur coat over an expensive Japanese designer dress, and her feet were clad in the latest pair of Jimmy Choos. Both her father's money, of course. Despite the suggestion of glamour, the girl was more sauce in the suburbs than sex in the city. She stood in the recess, leaning against the wall, one knee bent and the corresponding foot resting flat against the dirty brickwork. She was smoking a short hand-rolled cigarette and warbling along to whatever tune was playing inside the pub, her eyes bright from the ingestion of cheap narcotics and expensive alcohol. I stepped back in my own dark doorway, worrying that she might see me. I'd been following her for a couple of days, ever since her father agreed my slightly inflated fee proposal. Baz Singh was a well-known Bradford businessman who owned 3 curry restaurants and an off-licence and a small strip club in the centre of Bradford, which, if the rumours were true, also doubled up as a brothel. The girl was his daughter, Karina, and in my considered opinion, she was certainly worth watching. Let me get something straight right from the start. I'm not a private eye or some glorified down-at-heel Seamus. I do not have an official licence to run around investigating things the police have paid good tax money to look into. My days are not dedicated to chandleresque sleuthing, and I certainly don't spout sudden bursts of clipped dialogue while I hunt down Maltese falcons or tarnished MacGuffins. No, I just try to help people out. People who ask and who are willing to pay me for my trouble. Sometimes this works, other times it doesn't. Often it all goes horribly wrong. It's downside better and safer than what I used to do for a living. Better by far than mingling with the dead. My name is Thomas Usher, and I am, well, that's part of the problem. I don't really know what or who I am, not anymore. Not since I began to feel the maggot of self-doubt gnawing away at my guts. Not since the potentially true nature of my peculiar abilities were revealed to me, in a glimpse too brief even to be considered fleeting. Since then I have tried to stick to the right path and avoid all things unearthly, for want of a better word. These days I was more likely to be looking for someone's missing teenage daughter or absent spouse than gazing at the heart of the abyss. But it wasn't always that way. I used to be gifted, but now I feel cursed. At one time I thought my purpose in life was to help the dead find their way through the dark, but these days it seems that I might be mistaken. These days I can't even help the living. Karina Singh stuck out a cigarette against the wall and pushed away towards the middle of the footpath, like someone kicking off from the side of a swimming pool. A small burst of sparks remained in her wake, held in the air for a moment like a tiny swarm of fireflies, before being torn apart by the rain. The intensity of the rainfall had diminished, leaving behind that fine wispy rain that seems to get you even wetter than its heavier counterpart. My scalp was soaking and my coat was stuck to my back. "Come on, Byron." The voice was pure Bradford, dull, dour, an ugly sound from a pretty mouth. Yeah, the large shaven-headed Caucasian man she was shouting at shook the hand of an even larger bouncer he'd been locked in conversation with and approached Karina as she opened her arms to take him into a loose embrace. He ignored the gesture and grabbed a slim forearm, guiding her instead out into the centre of the road, where he stood trying to flag down a passing taxi. His hands, as he waved them in front of his face, looked as big as shovels, just as lethal. I watched the couple without leaving my hiding place, studying the way they moved, the subtleties of their body language. One of the downsides of my particular type of insight is that I am often unable to read people. The dead are easy to understand if you know the rules, follow straight lines of logic, but the living rarely think or act in a linear manner, and I'm often left feeling confused. I somehow manage to fumble through, but whatever insights I have come from darker regions than those inhabited by the sunlit folk I meet on a daily basis. The truth is, only death could help me read the living. The muscle man's name was Byron Spinks. I'd gathered enough information on him to know that he was a low-level criminal involved in everything from house burglary through car crime to prostitution. Karina was seeing him simply because her father disapproved. That fact was obvious to anyone who took the time to look, even to me. Baz Singh had already arranged his daughter's marriage to a wealthy Indian business partner, but Karina wasn't playing ball. She liked the freedom Western culture offered her, the right to make her own decisions and see any man she liked, the right to try before you buy. And this is where I came in. Baz Singh had retained my services and asked me to watch his daughter and report on her movements. He was terrified that she was planning to run away with this Yobo Spinks, and that any business capital to be gained from the proposed arranged marriage would go down the drain like so much discarded confetti during a storm. The couple crouched and climbed into a taxi, so I ran for my car, just part of the curb a few yards away in a no parking zone where I knew I'd get away with it. I dodged a group of weaving late-night revellers and climbed inside, following the taxi as it passed through a series of amber lights and headed out of the city towards the inner ring road. I'd seen enough cop shows on television to know that I should keep at least one vehicle between myself and the car I was trailing, but I was also worried that my lack of real experience in traditional covert pursuit would ensure that I lost them in the heavy nighttime traffic. The fact that I hated cars and driving was yet another obstacle to overcome. I didn't like this kind of work. It wasn't what I was made for. Then again, I wasn't really made for anything. That was the other part of the problem. During my years as what can only be described as a psychic sleuth, I'd honed and utilised many specialised methods. Seeing the dead, being called upon by spirits to help guide them to the next level, is a very esoteric field. I had no business rivals and I paid no income tax on my earnings. It was hard work, thankless for the most part. After the death of my wife and daughter, it was the only thing in my life that meant anything. My talent, my ability to see ghosts was like an anchor, ironically tethering me to the physical world. Without it, I would have taken a hot bath with a cold razor or died off the nearest bridge with rocks in my pockets. But that's another story. After a few miles, the taxi left the ring road at an exit marked for Bestwick, and I cringed at the thought of pursuing these people in what I knew was a rough area. But the taxi continued, passing through the outskirts of the mean-looking estate and carrying on towards a disused industrial complex called Flower Heights. The place consisted of a white concrete access road leading to several warehouse units, most of which had been gutted in a serious fire a couple of years ago, and some vacant office space which had miraculously survived the blaze. Prefab huts and squat red brick buildings were scattered among the blackened shells of the warehouses. I knew the place was dangerous. If red-top news reports were to believe, the area was used regularly by junkies and sex pests. Welcome to the Terror Dome, I muttered, reciting the line from a film or a book or a song, still not sure which. The taxi stopped at the curb and the couple climbed out. By this point, Karina looked slightly worse for the evening's drugs and alcohol intake. She was stumbling and her clothes were dishevelled. It looked to me as if she and Spinks had been getting more than cosy on the back seat. Karina's black stockings were rolled down to her knees. According to Singh, his daughter had been seeing Spinks for 6 weeks. Long enough for her to trust him, but not long enough to really know him. I had the suspicion that the promise of danger associated with this thug was half the attraction, and that Karina knew exactly what she was doing and why she was doing it. Pure bloody mindedness and the desire to hurt her father were the motivating factors in this particular soap opera.